Crabill. Always shining, David Crabill.
Moments in life are like bursts of light. They appear for an instant, but their warmth can last forever. Mr. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and to anyone who has lost a bet to their dad, maybe you have had some big moments, times that have changed your life forever. But then there are those other moments, those small, seemingly insignificant times that we don't even recognize until they've passed. Those are little moments, like times I shared with my dad in Pittville, a small, beautiful town in Northern California. One day in Pittville, my dad and I went outside to haul some firewood. Although the snow had blanketed the ground the night before, the sun smiled on it all day. And eventually, that cold snow was no match for the warmth of the sun. As we were walking, I turned and I looked at my dad, and I saw the grin. The grin that always preceded one of his overused jokes. I already knew it was coming. He said, "David, look, it's Indian snow." Even though he told it 1,000 times before, he still laughed when he delivered the punchline. Indian snow, Apache here, Apache there. We eventually headed indoors to sit by the fire, but it had died way down, with just a few coals remaining. So he opened up the stove door, put in a new log, and shut the door. I said, "Dad, aren't you going to put some newspaper or kindling in there to get it going again?" He turned and calmly said with that cheerful smile, "It will light." I knew what he meant. He thought the coals in the bottom of that fire would be enough to ignite that log. But with my infallible fire knowledge, I knew a little better than that. So pretty soon we had a bet. Just for fun, he bet that that log would light in 5 minutes. So I set the timer on my watch, and after 4 minutes, I could tell that that log had no chance of starting. So I was going to win, as usual. But being the typical son that I am, I decided to rub it in a little bit. I got so excited I started counting down 10, 9, 8, 7. And just then, that log almost magically burst into flames. I couldn't believe it. And my dad was rolling on the floor laughing. In moments like that, I learned that sometimes even I had to admit that my dad was right. But he knew that that cold log was no match for the warmth of the fire. That was one of those little precious moments that I had forgotten. It took a big moment for me to remember that. I didn't remember that story until the day that my dad passed away. Isn't it funny how it takes something like that for us to remember those little moments? They're like the stars, unnoticed when bright, but guideposts at night. The day my dad passed away is a day I will never forget. He had been ill for a few months, and it looked like he was fading fast. Finally, we could tell that he didn't have many moments left. As I stood by his bedside, holding one hand, as my mom held the other, we both looked at each other, and we knew, it's time. It's time. I gently leaned over for the last time and kissed his brow. Goodbye. But that cold day is still no match for the warmth of my dad. It didn't take me long to learn that he didn't die that day. That smile is still there. That fire is still there. And yes, the silly jokes are still there too. The last time I was in Pitville, sitting by the fire, I thought about him. As I looked out the window, watching the sun set in the distance, I saw it fading fast. Finally, as it kissed the brow of the horizon's edge, it silently said to me, I'm leaving you now. I'm going out of sight. But I'm still here, still shining, and I'll always be. My light still burns as bright as it did at noon. But if at night you forget, just look at my reflection on the moon. Good night. Dad.
Permanency.